So the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, says that no person shall be subject to arrest or detention without a warrant or probable cause. The detainers or detainer requests that the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Office of the federal government issues are not judicial warrants. The cases are not reviewed by a judge. They are simply administrative requests to hold someone while ICE decides if they would like to pick them up or further detain them in a federal facility. And so what happens is the local law enforcement agency, whether it's the sheriff's department or the local police lockup, holds people when they otherwise would have been able to go home, to return to their families, to continue on with their lives. And it's important to note that while someone might be arrested for a brief period of time, they haven't necessarily been charged with, convicted of a crime. And so if they are allowed to be released pending charges by a judge, or if they are assigned bail and meet that bail, then they have the constitutional right to be free and to go home. And anything that the state tries to do with respect to passing this bill that would require a local law enforcement agency to hold someone just because ICE requested is a direct violation to the Constitution.
Right.
That has been determined in many federal courts across the country, and in fact the Sheriff's Association of New York State has issued guidance to every sheriff in all 62 counties that basically reiterates the same and advises them strongly not to honor these ICE detainers and not to hold people who are otherwise eligible to be released.
Right. And also in the federal level, the federal immigration law do not require local officers to retain people, right, for a long time. I mean, that program has changed.
No, they never required. It was always a request. The program has changed from secure communities to priority enforcement, but the nature of the detainer itself has actually not changed at all. It's always been a request. It's never had the authority of a judicial warrant. It's always been unconstitutional. And so just the name is a little bit different, but the idea of what ICE is doing is the same.
Right. So can you just comment really quick on what negative effect will this bill, if approved, will have on the immigrant community?
Well, it's a signal. It's a chilling signal to immigrant communities across Long Island and across New York State that will undermine public trust and public safety. It's really important, and this is what the research shows. This is what the studies and advisement that the federal government has provided to many municipalities and locations across the country, that community-oriented policing is essential. Police officers, local law enforcement have to go into communities. They have to make relationships. They have to understand the local context. People need to feel safe reporting crime. People need to feel as though if they do report crime, that those crimes will be followed up. They need to cooperate. And when there is an unnecessary fear put out there, it deters people from doing that. And so it actually decreases public safety. And it undermines this notion that immigrant communities and really all communities can and should work collaboratively with local law enforcement in the pursuit of public safety. The other thing it does is, in a place like Suffolk County that has such a torrid history of anti-immigrant sentiment and hate, culminating in murder, you signal to those anti-immigrant demagogues out here that treating immigrants differently, setting immigrants aside, marking immigrants with a badge of dishonor is okay. Because if the elected officials and government can do it, then it must mean that I can do it also. And that certainly makes our communities less safe. And we only have to look to the case of Marcelo Lucero to know that that's a reality.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.